Ever get that feeling, when someone's giving you a compliment, but uh, something feels a little off, like they don't really mean it? Well, today we are going like way deep into this whole world of flattery.
Yeah.
And get this, our source material is from, you're not going to believe this, in English as a second language podcast.
It's really interesting when you think about it. You can learn so much about a culture by looking at how they teach language. It's like a secret code for understanding their social norms.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
So the one we're looking at today is an episode of Podcast Speak English, and it's supposed to be for, helping people learn vocabulary and, how to have conversations in English. But the example they use is so good. It's these two women, Valerie and Darlene, and they are like super polite to each other, but you find out at the end they really can't stand each other.
Oh yeah, that fake politeness thing, we all know that. But it is a good example though of how people use language to say, different things at the same time. You have the surface level, all smiles and being nice. But then underneath all that is where the real story is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to show this, the podcast gives us 4 phrases. So let's hear how Valerie and Darlene use them. First up is this one. I love what you've done with your hair.
So on the surface, this is like your typical compliment about a change someone made to how they look. But it's interesting how it kind of suggests that the person has made themselves better, right? Like they acknowledge the effort the person made and their taste. So that can be flattering.
Okay, so point for Valerie there. Then Darlene says, you haven't aged a day. You can practically hear the insincerity.
But even if it's fake, it can still work. Why? Because we all have this fear of getting older, especially women in a society that is, obstinate for being young. By saying that Valerie hasn't aged, she's kind of acknowledging that insecurity and maybe even, using it to her advantage.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a backhanded compliment there. What do they say next?
Well, then they start talking about Darlene's son, and she says, he is such a handsome guy. The structure, and then, a positive adjective is used to really emphasize something good about someone.
And you can use this for anything, right? Not just looks. Like, he is such a talented musician, or she's such a brilliant scientist.
Exactly. You take a simple compliment and you add an emphasis to it. It's a little trick you can use to make the flattery stronger.
Sneaky.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the last phrase they use?
Valerie says he gets his looks from his mother, meaning the son got his good looks from Darlene.
Well, that's so sweet. What's the real meaning there?
It's a compliment, but in a roundabout way. By praising someone's genes, you're basically saying they have good traits that they pass on. It also kind of connects them, like they have this shared history and that these good qualities run in the family.
So we've got these 4 phrases. I love what you've done with. You haven't aged a day. He is such a handsome guy, and he gets his looks from his mother. They sound innocent enough, but I feel like there's more to it.
Well, remember, these compliments are happening between two women who secretly don't like each other. That changes everything. What sounds like a nice compliment on the surface can be a way to, be mean or put someone down.
This is where it gets good.
We got to read between the lines. It's all about how they're saying these things. The words themselves might be positive, but the tone of voice and the context can tell a whole different story. I mean, think about it like being way too enthusiastic, deflecting right back to the other person and focusing on stuff that's just on the surface.
Mhm.
Those are all like classic signs that someone isn't being sincere.
Oh, so it's like they're using these nice compliments like a shield,
Yeah.
to hide how they really feel.
Exactly. It's all about keeping up appearances while you're secretly trying to undercut the other person. It's like a fencing match, but with words. Each
Oh.
compliment is like, a carefully planned attack.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
kind of scary when you think about it. Like even just normal everyday conversations can have all these hidden meanings.
Oh, absolutely. And that actually leads us to the small talk phrases that the podcast talks about too. They might seem kind of random, compared to flattery, but they're really important for understanding how these complicated social interactions work.
Okay, now I'm really curious. So how do small talk phrases fit into all this?
Well, think of them like strategic moves, like in a game of chess, but for social situations. You can use them to set up a compliment or to respond to one in a good way or even to like escape from someone who's being fake.
Oh, I like that, social chess.
Yeah.
So what are some of these, strategic phrases?
Well, there's the classic, it's been such a long time. You
Yeah.
can use that to acknowledge that it's been a while since you talked to someone, whether you've been avoiding them or just, haven't had a chance to connect.
Yeah, it's like a way to make things less awkward, even if you're not that happy to see them.
Exactly. Then you have, by the way, I heard. That's a really smooth way to bring up a new topic and show that you've been, paying attention to the other person's life. It's like saying, hey, I'm interested in you and what's going on with you.
Which is like, exactly what someone who loves flattery wants to hear.
Right. You're feeding their ego and giving them a chance to talk about themselves. And then, of course, it's been great talking to you, but I have to get going.
The classic escape route. But you have to say it the right way, don't you?
Absolutely. You want to sound like you mean it, like you're really sorry to leave, even if you're actually, counting down the seconds.
I never realized there was so much to small talk. I always thought it was just about, being polite. But it's obviously a lot more than that.
It's all about understanding these little unspoken rules about how people interact. It's about, reading between the lines, figuring out what's going to happen next, and using language to get what you want socially, whether that's making a good impression or getting information or just getting out of a weird situation.
I'm starting to think we should call this episode Social Chess 101.
Yeah, I like that. But before we go any further, let's think about, the listener. Why should they care about all this flattery and small talk stuff?
That's a good question. It might seem like it's just surface level chit chat, but it's actually really important.
It's about understanding how powerful language is, both what we say and what we don't say. Flattery, when it's real, can be a really powerful way to build relationships and show appreciation and make people feel good. But when it's fake, it can be used to manipulate people and trick them and even make them feel bad. It's super important to know the difference between the two so you can, navigate the social world.
Yeah, I think we've all been on both sides of that.
Mm-hmm.
Getting compliments that just felt fake. Have you ever gotten a compliment that you just knew wasn't sincere? Like the person wanted something from you?
Oh, yeah, of course. It happens to everyone. And haven't you ever used flattery to get what you wanted?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Mhm.
But I think the point is that we have to think about the reasons behind the words. Sometimes a compliment is just a compliment, but sometimes it's part of a bigger, social game.
And that's where knowing those small talk strategies is helpful. They give us the tools to play that game, whether we're trying to impress someone or get some information or, gracefully get out of a conversation.
It's like having a secret weapon.
Exactly. But what's really important to remember is that communication is about way more than just the words we say. It's about our tone of voice, our body language, the context, and most importantly, what we actually mean. When we pay attention to all those things, we can become better communicators, both when we give compliments and when we get them.
That's a really good point. It's
Right.
not just about being a good talker. It's about being a good listener and being observant.
Exactly. And the more we practice, the better we'll get at telling the difference between, genuine flattery and the kind that's just trying to manipulate us. We can use our, new small talk skills to handle social situations with more confidence and grace. And ultimately, we can use language to build stronger, more authentic relationships with the people around us.
I like that. It's like we're taking all this knowledge about how language works and using it for good instead of, for bad. All this talk about fake flatteries make me wonder, is there even such a thing as a real compliment anymore?
Oh, yeah, of course. Don't let the Darlenes of the world get you down. There's a whole other side to flattery, the kind that makes you feel good because it's coming from a real place. And they happen more often than you might think.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. So how can you tell, the difference between a real compliment and a fake one?
Well, there are a few things you can look for. First, real compliments tend to be specific. Instead of just, general praise, they'll focus on something particular, something the person put effort into, or that, shows their personality.
So instead of just, you look great, it
Yeah.
would be, that color really makes your eyes pop, or your presentation was so well researched, I learned so much.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
means you were actually paying attention and noticed something, special about them.
Like you really see them, not just some random person.
Right. And another thing is they might ask you questions about it or show that they're really interested in what you're saying. It's not just a quick compliment.
Hmm.
They're actually engaging with you and the topic.
So if someone compliments my new haircut, they might ask where I got it done or say they've been thinking about trying something similar themselves.
Exactly. It shows they're not just, going through the motions. They're actually curious and want to connect.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
Notice if they focus more on your effort or your skills instead of just your looks. Praising someone's work ethic or their creativity or how good they are at solving problems, those compliments are way more meaningful.
Yeah, it's like you're acknowledging something that the person has control over something they worked for, which is way better than just saying you're pretty.
Right. It's about appreciating who they are and what they've done, not just how they look.
And of course, you can't forget about body language.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Body language can tell you so much. A real compliment usually comes with a genuine smile, real eye contact, maybe even a touch on the arm to show they really mean it. It's when the words and the actions match up that makes it feel real.
It's like that saying, it's the thought that counts. That's actually true here.
Absolutely, and the timing and the context matter too. A real compliment is usually given spontaneously, like in response to something specific that impressed them.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing and acknowledging what someone did right then and there, not just saying something nice because you feel like you have to.
Like if you go out of your way to help a coworker and they say thank you and tell you how much they appreciate it, that's probably coming from a real place.
Right, it feels like you earned it,
Mm.
And I guess the most important thing is that real compliments make you feel good, like encouraged, not just flattered for a second.
Yes. It's that warm, fuzzy feeling you get when you know someone sees the real you and appreciates you for who you are, not just for how you look.
Exactly. A real compliment can be really powerful. It can make someone's day, give them more confidence, and even make the bond between two people stronger.
So as we're wrapping up our, deep dive into flattery,
Mm.
I want to leave our listeners with something to think about. Pay attention to the compliments you give and the ones you get. Are they specific? Are they genuine? Are they focused on things that really matter?
Because when we learn to give and receive compliments in an authentic way, we create a more positive and supportive environment for ourselves and everyone around us.
I love that. So next time you want to just say, you look great.
Mm.
Stop and think for a minute about what you really appreciate about that person
Mm.
and tell them, be specific and be sincere. You might be surprised by how much it means to them.
Remember, a real compliment is a gift, to both the person giving it and the person receiving it. It's a small act of kindness that can make a big difference, spreading positivity and making connections stronger.
Well said. So keep those compliments real,
Yeah.
keep those conversations going, and keep diving deep into this whole fascinating world of human communication. We'll see you next time.